Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle. If you're new here, this channel is filled with complete and utter randomness. Sometimes it's a diary entry, sometimes it's a movie review, sometimes it's travel, sometimes it's mental health related. Honestly, we're all about all the things here. So thank you for joining. If you couldn't tell by the witchy vibes, we are right around Halloween time, so we're going to dedicate this episode for spooky vibes, but really cutesy spooky vibes because I don't do horror. We don't do that here. None of that dark energy. I've been really into the cute, cozy Halloween vibes this year. It's actually pretty much an extension of a couple of videos ago where I had life update plus some spooky recommendations. I mentioned there that every year around this time I rewatch some of my favorite Halloween movies, and really the majority of them are Halloween DComs. And if you don't know what a Dcom is, you're probably too young or too old because it is what I grew up watching, and they were truly the best. Like, I lived for DComs. The level of stories that they were doing back then needs a comeback. In case you're like, what the hell is a DCom? It is a Disney Channel original movie. This video is going to be specifically dedicated to the Halloween DComs because I love them. I mean, I love many DComs, but the Halloween ones, elite. They're really the ones that I rewatch every year. I went back and rewatched almost all of them. I thought I would do a little review. We'll start with the ultimate, one that I've already seen multiple times this year, and the one that I actually do watch every year, which is Halloween Town. This year is the 25th anniversary, which makes me feel freaking old. It's so funny watching some of these movies now when it's clearly been 25 years and you're like, what was I watching? At the same time, I love it. It is just, it's so nostalgic, but it's also so like innocent and fun. It's just so wholesome. There are 4 Halloween Town movies. I love the first 2. I don't mind the third one, but I also am not as into it. And the 4th one I have never seen. The movies basically follow this girl who is like super into the spooky things and like loves everything, you know, magical and weird. She's into Halloween, but her mom is like, absolutely not. We don't do this stuff. She has this smarty pants like dorky brother and a sweet little sister, and the movie starts on Halloween. She's like trying to go trick-or-treating and her mom just like shuts her down. And then their grandmother, played by the iconic Debbie Reynolds, comes, and she's just like, I mean, if she came around like that, even in a regular world, I would think she was a witch. She just like has the aura of fairy godmother slash magical witch going on all around her. She comes into town and she like really can't help herself with all of her magical tendencies. But obviously the mom is like, you gotta cut that out. Marnie overhears and also sees her grandmother doing magic and is like, holy crap, I am magical. Her grandmother asks the mom for help because there's something wrong in Halloween Town, and Marnie's like, what? She tells her brother all of this and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? Then she follows her grandmother, who leaves and goes back to Halloween Town. The movie kind of goes from there. I thought that the second one was just as good, if not better than the first. I go back and forth between both of them. And the second one is really like a true sequel of the first one. Like, it's kind of a continuation in terms of like the main plot point, even though I would have loved more backstory on like how that's even possible, because if and when you see the second Halloween Town movie, the main plot is because I want to know where that came from, you know what I mean? Like, I have questions, I want to know more, but like, it's a decom, you know? Like, it is what it is. I love like the little gadgetries that were in the movies. Agatha, she has this bag. It's like the Mary Poppins bag. It's a bag that like follows her around and just has endless amounts of things in it. How awesome would it be to have a bag that follows you around wherever you go? Lord knows I've left things behind plenty of times. It would be nice if my bag could just follow me. In the third one, it's an alligator bag and it has a mind of its own and it's like a character. In the second one, they had these skeleton heads that are walkie-talkies, but walkie-talkies that you can use between Halloween Town and the Mortal World, and it's so cool. Like, how fun is that as a walkie-talkie, like a talking skeleton? Love the little gadgetries and magical things that they have like that. The third movie is when they're in high school and Marnie is trying to set up this exchange program for the kids from Halloween Town to come to the Mortal World and showcase that the two worlds can be combined, and she's up against people who don't believe in that. It was okay. I didn't hate it or love it. Apparently Bruce has some feelings about it though. The fourth one, like I said, I haven't watched. They recast Marnie, played by Kimberly J. Brown, in that last one to Sarah Paxton, and it's truly unknown why they recast her. I just was uninterested in the fact that they recast her, so I opted out. I'm pretty sure that one is Marnie in college. I strongly recommend the first two, especially if you like a feel-good movie. Something I noticed watching the movies this time around was Disney had a formula down pat. All of the movies except Don't Look Under Your Bed had single moms. I think it was a combination of passed away and divorce. And all of the movies except for Under Wraps had 3 kids. The next one is Don't Look Under Your Bed, which I love. I don't know why I like this movie so much, but I do. This movie follows a family with a mom and a dad with 3 kids, and it focuses on Franny, the middle child. Franny is this brainiac who skipped grades and is very logical and wants an explanation for everything. I did not remember that the youngest brother apparently had leukemia. It was like an underlying story point in this movie, and I totally forgot that that was a point in this movie because I was like, oh dang, that was heavy. Like, the family had to go through the little brother having leukemia. Like, totally didn't remember that that was a thing. The movie starts with weird things are happening in the neighborhood and all of these like pranks are being pulled all over. Random things like their alarm clocks go off way too early. The dogs are on the roof. Just a bunch of random weird things are going on. And then things start becoming more and more pointed towards Franny being the person who's doing all of this stuff, and she has to figure out like why all of this stuff is happening. She's like seeing all of these things happen and like knows it's not her, but everybody just finds her in these situations, so it's hard for her to be like, it's not me. So this one also has like a message behind it, similar to, I feel like, the first Halloween Town movie of believing in yourself and trusting your instincts. Like, Don't Look Under Your Bed has this underlying message of don't lose your imagination and as you get older. I love a good underlying theme in a movie too. The end moment, so many thoughts about the end-ish scene of that movie, like, for so many different reasons. I'm just gonna do like a spoiler alert so that you can skip over it if you don't want to know. So, spoiler alert. This movie is about how a boogeyman comes to be. If you stop believing in your imaginary friend before you know you don't need them anymore, then your imaginary friend turns into a boogeyman. Frances convinces her little brother that imaginary friends are not real and like the boogeyman is not real, like none of that is real. So he stops believing before he really should stop believing. Like, he's still a really little kid. Frances, in the middle of all this chaos, starts seeing this guy who is an imaginary friend that we come to, spoiler alert, more spoiler alerts, is her little brother's imaginary friend. So she starts to see him, and he's the one who's like helping her figure out what's going on and all this boogeyman stuff. The main spoiler, at the end of the movie, he kisses her. And in one regard, amazing, because interracial kiss back then on a Dcom, Francis is white, Larry Houdini, who is the imaginary friend, is played by a black actor. That iconic in its own, but also he's an imaginary friend and she's real and they kiss. So it's also like, what? Like a fantasy book meant to happen. Anyways, end of spoiler alert. The next one I watched was Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, which has Aunt Hilda from Sabrina in it as the mom, and then also 3 kids. This one, actually, like, all the kids are pretty involved in the movie. The vampire is the guy who is in The Nanny, like, Fran is nannying for the guy who plays a vampire. Like, Lizzie McGuire's dad is in the movie. A bunch of randoms. The mom is divorced, and the middle son, I actually don't remember any of their names if we're being honest. The oldest is a girl, and then there's 2 younger brothers. The middle brother, he is really into the horror movies. At the beginning of this movie, he's watching a vampire movie, and then the younger brother snuck in to watch it, but then gets freaked out, of course. Oh, you know who else is in this movie? Jake Epstein. Not that one. He played Craig in Degrassi. He's very young, so it had to have been like way before. Anyways, love him. He goes to school and totally botches an assignment and gets grounded, but has plans to go to a concert, and the older daughter wants to go out with this boy, so they both really want to do these things that their mom's not going to let them do. The mom is a divorcee. They're like, we should set her up on a date so that we can go do the things that we want to do. Goes to show you how this is a different time, because they find the men from the newspaper ad, which was like, I actually have no idea. Did people put Love Wanted ads? Like, guess it's like their Tinder, Bumble, Hinge profile in a newspaper? Like, that was a thing? Does that still exist? Because I still can't find a man. That seems even crazier to me, and not that we're not doing that on the internet these days, but like, I just like, what in the world? But anyways, they find this guy from the newspaper, then they email him to meet at a grocery store. And again, it's not like much different than what happens today, but this is why online dating freaks me out, because not that I can end up with a vampire, it could be bad. The kids are like, great, she's set up, we can go do our thing now. The little brother finds out that it's a vampire, and he has to try to convince the siblings that it's a vampire and save their mom. Another common theme with all of these movies is the youngest siblings are like the most intuitive. Listen to the youngest baby sibling. They're the ones who know what's going on. So another weird thing there was like, the kid has a babysitter, and he was so freaked out that he called this vampire hunter person. He shows up at the house and just like comes in, and the babysitter's just like, no big deal. A strange grown man just walked into the home and is talking to this child. It was very strange. It was very strange. So a few like questionable things like that. Otherwise, great movie. The next one was Phantom of the Megaplex. Again, single mom with 3 kids. The oldest son works at this movie theater and is like a workaholic. He basically is just like, I need to make as much money as possible, so he's just working up the ladder at this movie theater. The younger two kids are like really, really into movies because apparently their dad was really into movies, so assuming it's like their way to like stay bonded with him. It's the premiere weekend. They're supposed to be hosting the premiere of some like really big Hollywood flick, and everything has to be like tip-top shape, no flaws. Let's do this thing. Of course, the oldest son, I'm so sorry that I don't remember anybody's name, but the oldest guy, if it helps, he was in the OC way back when. Played the rich kid. This is all I remember. He was in the New Year's episode. He's been in a bunch of things though over the years. Anyways, this kid is the assistant manager and working this event. His mom is going on a date. The kids are planning to go watch a movie. The plan is the mom will drop them off before the date. They'll watch a movie. The brother will drop them back home between his shifts and then go back and work the premiere. Of course, things do not go that way. There's just like one thing after the other that keeps going wrong. The youngest brother, again the youngest, knows what's going on. He's like, yo, all of these things are based off of whatever the movie is. There is a theme here. And he's like, it's the Phantom of the Megaplex. They're trying to like run this theater and make sure that they're ready for this premiere, but then they're also trying to find this Phantom. This movie has a good theme of enjoy your youth, like don't work so hard. Honestly, one of the takeaways for me, there's more to life than just work. The last one that I watched this year was Under Wraps, which apparently was the first Dcom. There was Disney Channel movies before too, but like in the Dcom era, I think Under Wraps was the first. So Under Wraps is about a mummy who comes to life, which why wouldn't he? So this is the original version. Apparently they have remade it not too long ago, and then they even did a sequel to that one. I have not watched those. They could be good, they could not be good, I don't know. The original one I really did enjoy. This one also has a single mom who has one son. This is not 3 siblings, but 3 friends. So there's 2 guys and 1 girl. The main guy is super into monsters and horror movies, of course. Who isn't in any of these movies? This guy in their neighborhood dies, and the girl's mom is a realtor, so they're able to like get into his house, and I forget if they were just like snooping or if they were looking for something, but they happen upon this mummy. For whatever reason, right time, right place, it comes to life, but they quickly realize that he's a friendly mummy, and the boy becomes attached to him. They end up realizing they need to get the mummy back in its coffin within like 24 hours, or I don't know, I mean, he's already dead, but I guess he would cease to exist completely or something. Basically, they're trying to make sure that they can keep this mummy away from the general public and hidden until they can figure out how to get him back in the coffin. But of course, the coffin goes missing and they have to figure it out. I feel like I've mentioned this on every single episode. My favorite show is Boy Meets World. In their rewatch podcast, Pod Meets World, they have actually mentioned this, where back then TV and movies material was made for the assumption that like kids and parents were all watching together, whereas now everybody is watching kind of in their separate places, times, whatever. So the content is more geared specifically for those audiences, which is interesting because if you watch Under Wraps versus like any of the other ones that I mentioned, you can kind of tell with the material that shift had already started to happen. Not that like anything was overly risque or like whatever, like the kids are super young and they're at the museum, they're like reading the history and they read about being celibate. It's honestly a great scene because the dorky guy is asking like, what's celibate? And the girl is like, no chicks. The dorky guy is like, oh, I don't think I could do that. And she was like, I don't think you have to worry about it. I totally don't remember that, obviously. So surprised that they had that in a Dcom. Nothing remotely close to that was like talked about in any of the other movies. It was just a really funny scene, to be honest. Genuinely, like, the kid had no idea, but truly, if you took a kid to a museum, they might read something like that and have the question. So it's like very like relatable, but it's also so interesting that things like even that are so PC. You could totally tell it was a little bit of a different type, but like I really liked it. So those are the 5 that I've already watched this year. The only other one that I know of is the Scream Team. I watched last year. It's a tiny bit different than the other ones, which is instead of a single mom, it's a single dad. There's only 2 siblings. So there's a younger brother and then there's the older sister who's played by Kat Dennings, who I love. I feel like she should be in more spooky content because she gives off witchy vampire vibes. This is the only Halloween spooky thing that I've seen her in, which feels wrong. This movie, their grandfather dies and the younger brother feels like the spirit is trying to tell him something, and then they happen upon basically the place for souls to cross over. Of course, they end up finding out that the grandfather's soul has been taken hostage by this evil soul, and they have to figure out who it is and why, and that's basically the premise of that movie. It's definitely my like least favorite of the ones that I mentioned. So if we did rankings, is Halloween Town, Don't Look Under Your Bed, Under Wraps. 4th place is Phantom of the Megaplex for me, and then is Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, and then finally the Scream Team. Have you watched any, if all or none of these movies? If you have watched any of them, which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and happy Halloween!